Good evening, friends. As the nights get longer and the days become more chilly, let's cozy in for a story about bright lights and beautiful sights. One of my favourite places to spend winter is in Italy. The crowds seem to be less and the local traditions, they shine beautifully. And one of my favourite cities? Florence. Florence is a place of art and magic, stones which hold histories, and streets filled with marble and majesty. I have found special things, and much I recall with warmth from many places this time of year. Yet, there's nothing quite like Christmas in Florence. Come with me. Let me share this happy reunion, and let's take a stroll through the city streets and see what we can find. It's hard to walk very far in Florence during the Christmas season without stopping for the very best winter treat, cioccolata calda. Italian chocolate is no ordinary drink. It's rich, creamy, almost like a dessert, and so smooth and velvety. Cioccolata calda is made with Italy's finest, most luxurious chocolate, shaved, melted and blended with just the right amount of milk. It's a treasure and a tradition. Having a bit of a sweet tooth, I've had chocolate in many places around the world, but nothing can rival cioccolata calda. As soon as the air cools, my mind begins to drift to the warm radiance of melted chocolate. The Christmas season doesn't truly start until I've had my first sip. The warmth, the smoothness, and the taste of chocolate is rich and intense, lingering like a quiet evening by the fire. Ah, here it is, our first stop. The famed Florentine institution known as Café Rivoire. Café Rivoire has been here for as long as I can remember, and I'm sure much longer. It sits on the edge of the Piazza del Signoria, across from the looming majesty of the Palazzo Vecchio. Café Rivoire's recipe remains a secret, as they carefully guard the specifics. But I know that it is made from their special chocolate, a flavour as rich and as complex as the city itself. I step inside, where the air is warm and filled with the scent of cacao, and make my way to the bar to order. The cioccolata arrives. I immediately smell the rich notes of cacao, sugar, and vanilla. The chocolate is served in a porcelain cup, steaming, dark, and glossy. I take a slow sip, letting in the warmth and richness. Each drink holds a small piece of Florence's history, a taste that transports you back in time, if only for a moment. The world outside fades a little as I savour the chocolate, and the season's cold drifts into the background. As I gaze into the cup, I think about why I love this city so much. There is a true air that cannot be dispelled here of creation and light. This is the birthplace of the Renaissance, a word which means rebirth. It came after a time of repression and a loss of connection to the most powerful of our ideas as human beings. Yet, a city began to softly glow in a dark Western Europe, defying the weight of war, loss, and suppression. Trade began to flourish, and families became wealthy. Those families, such as the Medicis, chose to invest deeply in the arts, in scholars and architects, and a glow became a light which would spread through the roads that the Romans built to other cities. Art became beloved, creativity cherished, and the best of our intelligence and the wisdom of antiquity was revived. Art was not a pleasant thing to do on an afternoon, but essence pulled from the soul, wrestled from God perhaps, and immortalized in a stone, or paint on a wall, a ceiling or a canvas. It was, as one of my favourite books was titled, The Agony and the Ecstasy. Like all things born over time, it came both with tears and struggle, and was followed by miracle. I love this city because it lives on as the symbol of what comes after the dark, of what knowledge and light can do, and of what we are capable of when the circumstances we find bring the best of us to bear. It reminds me that all dark chapters end, and the creativity and indomitable fire that lives in every human heart will not be quelled, and cannot be extinguished from the earth. The second and perhaps most wonderful thing I love is that an idea was born here called humanism. Humanism said at the center of the world, at the nexus of all we did as a civilization, was the human being. It was an idea that asked the question, what are we truly capable of? What beauty could we rise to? What splendor could we craft? What miracle waits in our human hands or in the quiet places of our minds? Humanism says every one of us has within us the capacity of greatness, creativity, and reason by which to ponder the riddles and mysteries of a vast universe. Humanism challenges that whatever life may lie beyond this life, we should become now all that we might be. Education, scientific inquiry, and method came forward. Art beyond compare. Poetry and philosophy flowed from the whetted tip of many quills, and the nature of God was debated freely. Humankind began to awaken, at least in this part of the world. I wonder, what are you capable of? What story will you yet tell? What rebirth waits for you after what may have been a long chapter of challenge? This is why I come to Florence. I breathe deeply of the air of the city, and I think about how incredible this life is and what poems may yet be written, what art yet painted or divined from stone, and what might yet come from this wondrous journey of being human. Perhaps it is something they put in the hot chocolate that yields such thoughts. Better not to know. I glance out to the piazza, where people walk by, bundled in coats and scarves, their breath visible in little puffs in the crisp winter air. I see smiles, laughter, and joy. Italy connects as night falls. Everyone joins in the life of the city from young to old. Some will simply set a chair out on the street and watch, greeted by children who have known them for years. If you really want to know about Italy, walk at night. From my spot inside the little cafe, the view is perfect. Florence's grand buildings, centuries old, their stones washed in the day's last golden light, each telling its own story, and the Palazzo Vecchio standing tall like a steadfast guardian of the city. I close my eyes momentarily to take in the warmth and savour the last bit of chocolate. I'm still in awe that anything could be so delicious. When I open my eyes again, my heart feels lighter and more joyful, and I'm ready to continue our journey through the city. I step outside. No destination needed, but just surrendered to where the city takes me, which in my humble opinion is the very best way to experience this ancient city, especially during Christmastime. The sun has set, and the night is sparkling and inviting. If you've ever been to Florence in the spring or summer, you might not recognize it in December. It's a city transformed. The streets come alive with warmth and charm that only Christmas can bring. And nowhere is this more evident than in the lights. Florence takes its lights very seriously. And oh, what a display they are. Above me, overhead, strings of light stretch from building to building, casting a warm glow across the cobblestone streets. They form delicate arches, each one like a ribbon of starlight draped across the city. Along Via Tornabuoni, Florence's grand shopping street, the lights are elegant and refined, twinkling against the polished windows of small boutiques and luxury shops. They reflect off the glass, creating a cascade of shimmering patterns that warm the air where the glow reaches. I stroll through the streets, and little crowds have begun to form, savouring the gentle rhythm of the city. I love the uneven feel of each cobblestone that my feet find, and cannot help but think of the stories held inside these stones. Michelangelo hurrying to the garden of San Marco, or Donatello coming home from a long day at the Campanile. Each corner I turn reveals something new, a glimpse of Florence dressed for the season. Simple and lovely wreaths hang from doors, adorned with red ribbons and sprigs of pine. Storefronts have come to fuller life, transformed into scenes of holiday cheer, with ornaments and miniature trees, each decorated in a beloved tradition passed down through generations. Further down on the Via de Calzioli, the lights change, taking on deep red and green colours, as if the streets itself has put on its holiday colours. Garlands wrap lampposts and doorways with gold and silver. They glisten as if touched by starlight. And then I see the shopkeepers, each one bundled in layers, smiles on their faces, waving to passers-by with the warmth of a neighbour. One of my favourite things about Italy, of course, is the people who call this place home. They have a warmth and a passion that I have come to love deeply. It feels like my soul gets a bit of the family I needed whenever I come here. This feels even more true in the south, and Florence feels like the gateway to that lovely part of Italy that has become part of my heart. Even as they tease me lovingly about the way I say espresso, I cannot help but feel like my grandfather is smiling at me and giving me a gentle rib. The Via di Calzioli turns into the Via Camillo Cavour, and I'm close to my favourite bakery and focacceria, Forno Puggi, on Via di Ginori. As I approach the bakery, the sweet smell of fresh focaccia mixes with warm sugar. I go inside and am met with a delectable selection of powdered lemony delights, pastries of all kinds, and cookies with intricate decoration. Hungry from my walk, I order the prosciutto cotto schiacciata. Every ingredient is undeniably fresh. Italy takes its food very seriously, and it's an easy way to tell an authentic Italian experience: the quality of the ingredients. Italians are proud of the food they serve and of its origins. The details and flavour are superb. I wrap the rest of my schiacciata and head back out into the cool night air. It feels as if the entire city has dressed up for Christmas, as if every stone, every window, every street corner is part of the celebration. It seems as though each person, each shopkeeper, each little boy and girl holds a strand that are brought together in a loom of light and made into the blanket of wonder that envelops the city for this extraordinary time. The streets lead me to my next stop, Florence's Christmas markets, and I know I'm in for a treat. There's a certain buzz here, a mixture of laughter, the smell of good food, and the sound of people calling out greetings to friends. At Christmas, these markets become little worlds of their own, filled with everything from handmade gifts to local holiday foods. The Piazza Santa Croce market is one of my favourites. Set against the backdrop of the Grand Basilica, it's a lively gathering of vendors, locals and visitors, all drawn by the promise of seasonal cheer. Rows of wooden stalls line the piazza, each one lit up with string lights, and the air is filled with scents that make me feel instantly at home. Roasting chestnuts, freshly baked bread, and spiced mulled wine. I wander past stalls filled with handcrafted goods, coloured scarves, leather-bound journals, and intricate wooden toys. One vendor has an array of delicate ornaments, each one painted with the tiny scenes of Florence from the Duomo to the Ponte Vecchio. Nearby, a craftsman is selling carved nativity scenes, his hands moving quickly as he smooths out the details on a tiny figure of a lamb. The food stalls are impossible to resist. I stop for a cone of roasted chestnuts, hot and slightly charred, their earthy flavour a reminder of simple joys. The chestnut vendor, a cheerful older man in a wool hat, grins as he hands them over, wishing me a warm Buon Natale. I pop a chestnut into my mouth, savouring its earthy flavour as I continue exploring. Next, I find a stall selling vin brûlé, a hot spiced wine that warms me right down to my toes. The drink has hints of cinnamon, cloves and citrus, and I warm my hands around the cup, feeling its heat seep into my skin. It's perfect for a chilly December evening, and I sip slowly, enjoying the rich flavours and the way they mingle with the scents around me. Around the corner, a baker is selling panforte and cavallucci. I can't resist trying a slice of panforte, a dense, spiced fruit cake that's a Tuscan speciality. It's chewy and packed with nuts and dried fruit, a sweet and slightly spicy treat that feels like Christmas itself. Cavallucci are small chewy cookies flavoured with anise and walnuts. I take a bite, enjoying the hint of licorice mixed with the crunch of nuts. As I wander through the stalls, I notice the joy on people's faces as they browse for gifts, sampling treats and pausing to chat with vendors. Children run around, their excitement contagious, darting from one stall to the next, pointing out toys and sweets. There's a feeling of community here, as if everyone is a part of this celebration. Each of us connected by the shared delight of the season. At one stall, I buy a small hand-carved ornament, a tiny angel with wings outstretched, and I slip it into my bag. It's a small piece of Florence I can take home with me, a reminder of this night, this market, and of the warmth and friendliness that fill this city during the holidays. With my hands warmed by the last of my vin brûlée, I leave the market. As I continue to walk, I feel Florence's spirit walking with me, as though this city, with all its beauty and history, has made room in its heart for me too. I find myself drawn toward the familiar sound of holiday music drifting down the narrow streets. A small group of musicians has gathered in a corner of Piazza della Repubblica, their instruments echoing off the old stone buildings. I stop to listen, feeling the music settle over the piazza and cast its playful spell on all who hear. Violins, a flute, and the occasional strum of a guitar blend together, playing notes that feel timeless. A mix of Italian carols and timeless Christmas classics fill the air. Each note floats up, carrying a gentle reminder of the season's joy and peace with it. Florentines and visitors gather around, some nodding to the music, others simply pausing to enjoy the moment. There's a real sense of togetherness here, as if the rush of daily life fades away for just a moment, leaving only the simple pleasure of being together and listening to music under a winter sky. As I move through the streets, I pass by a church with its doors open. Inside, a choir is rehearsing for midnight mass. Their voices rise and fall in perfect harmony, filling the space with a powerful and soothing sound. Florence's churches are beautiful any time of the year, but they take on an extra glow at Christmas. Their altars are adorned with candles and greenery, and their halls are filled with quiet reverence for the season. Midnight Mass at the Duomo is a tradition for many in Florence. And there's a sense of anticipation as people make their way toward the cathedral. I imagine the scene later tonight, candles flickering in the darkened space, the choir's voices echoing under the dome, the grandeur of the Duomo adding a sense of wonder to the celebration. It's a place that has seen centuries of Christmases, each adding its layer of history and memory. Walking past the church, I notice groups of carolers singing in front of some shop windows and along cobbled alleys. Their voices are soft and inviting, carrying familiar melodies through the night. People stop to listen, some singing along, their faces lit with quiet smiles. Even in the cold, there's warmth in every note, a reminder of Christmas's simple joys. I find myself humming along as I walk, feeling the music wrap around me, as though Florence herself is singing, sharing her joy with anyone who will listen. The sounds mingle with the season's scents, the lingering sweetness of roasted chestnuts, the faint spice of mulled wine, and the crispness of winter air. As I pass by the trattoria, I glimpse families gathered around tables, sharing laughter and stories over bowls of pasta and glasses of wine. Inside, it looks warm and cozy. Light from the candles flicker against the walls, and the sound of clinking glasses mixes with bursts of laughter. It's a scene that could be from any Christmas Eve in Florence, a tradition of gathering together and celebrating the season and the company of loved ones. Florence at Christmas is more than lights and decorations. It's a feeling of being connected and part of something shared across generations. Tonight, as the music fills the air and the city's warmth settles around me, I feel that connection deeply. And as I walk on, I know there's one last sight waiting for me. The grand Christmas tree in Piazza della Repubblica. The final stop in Florence's Christmas magic. The piazza feels like a sanctuary amidst the city's liveliness. People gather around the tree, gazing up, lost in its glow. The tree is magnificent. Its branches are heavy with ornaments, each catching the light and twinkling like 1,000 tiny stars. Golden lights hug the tree from top to bottom, casting a warm glow over the entire piazza. Children's laughter fills the air, and their faces light up with joy as they take in the grand tree. A couple stands nearby, their hands entwined, sharing a quiet moment beneath the glow. Friends snap photos, capturing memories to hold on to after the season has passed. I close my eyes, taking in all the sounds around me, the faint hum of carolers in the distance, the laughter, and the soft crunch of footsteps on cobblestones. The cool night air fills my lungs. I stand beneath the tree's glow, feeling its warmth sink into my heart. When I open my eyes, I let them drift up to the very top of the tree, where a shining star rests. Its light reaches out into the night, casting its glow over Florence. A light seen from all around, placed in a storied city where it all began. As I leave, I take one last look at the glowing tree. I smile, grateful for another Christmas in Florence, and the quiet joy that will carry me through until next Christmas. It's been such a joy to share this evening with you. May your Christmas and this season be full of the love and light of cherished moments with family and friends. And may Florence help remind you of how extraordinary and beautiful you really are. Good night.